triggered would you think a group of feminists would get in a roundtable discussion talking about being a submissive wife? Well, the Whatever podcast ended up having this discussion. It was feminists versus non-feminists, conservative Christians versus non-conservative Christians. Let's watch this together because I have some comments that I want to make, and then we can talk about what we think about being a submissive wife and if that's a good thing or if it's bad, if it's dangerous, if it's biblical. I'm Alex Clark. Thumbs up this video, subscribe to this channel, and let's get started.
Question for both of you guys. So obviously, you know, the word tells us that men are called to be the spiritual leaders of the households. It sounds like both of you guys want that. Are you guys also excited to like submit to a husband who's a strong leader in the household?
Yes. And this, I do want to say, has changed for me. In college, like I want to be the boss girl, and it changed a lot for me. I really used to have an edge to me about submission, that was weak. And now I think it's actually really a good thing because I think that men are supposed to lead and I think women are supposed to submit in a way that benefits both of them.
How is that not reciprocity though? Why is that submitting?
I would say it's submission because I want the man to make decisions. I want him to be the one that puts the effort in with making sure that we are provided for. And I think that women should not just not do anything. But I don't think that, I don't want to be an equal with my husband. I don't want us to both be, I think we're equal in our value, but I don't want us to both be equal earners and things like that. I actually would rather be under him.
It takes a huge weight off your shoulders, actually, to be able to love and trust a guy so much. You know that the huge, really heavy responsibilities and the really difficult decisions, he gets to make that choice. Obviously, he's having a conversation with you about what you think before he makes a decision. But at the end of the day, he's the one that's going to make that final decision for the family. And so you get to just relax and trust in him that you know that he loves you and your family and your kids. And so he's going to do whatever he thinks is best with the information that he has at the time. And I don't know, I think that's nice. It's like a relief to me, that idea.
I don't even know what we're talking about. I'm not pious and religious. I'm genuinely trying to ask when you're saying the word submission, what you mean, because my version of what that means, I don't think is aligning with what you guys are saying. So I'm just trying to understand. I'm not trying to cut off to be rude.
Ideally for me, submission would be, if you think of like an umbrella diagram, God is the umbrella, right under him is the husband, and then it's the wife, and then it's the children.
So I consider it willful cooperation, but some people have a different sense of it. Go ahead, Chase.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say for me, what I would expect from a wife in terms of submission is her recognizing I have the ultimately I'm responsible for my family being safe, provided for.
That's what I'm saying. And I don't want that stress as a woman.
Through this world, all that kind of stuff, right? Like at the end of the day, if my family, you know, gets killed or wrecked, or if they're properly provided for, it all comes down on me, right? And so I expect my wife to defer to me when it comes to important decisions about where should we live, where should we send the kids to for school, what church should we go to, should I take this job or that job? You know, if my wife wants me to do one job, but I'm like, no, I think this is the important one, I'll expect my wife to submit to me in that and to trust in my leadership.
Your ultimate say
essentially
supersedes hers at the end of the day for the well-being of the family?
Technically,
yeah,
yes.
It's essentially trust in leadership, but it's not. That doesn't mean that I'm going to look at my wife like somebody to just boss around. Like I want her to be my partner. You know, I want to come to my wife.
You care about what she has to say when you're like, which job, but the ultimate come down to which one you pick would be you, and that's the submittance part.
And also keep in mind that the man, when you are submitting to him, it's not just any man. This is a man who has earned your respect.
That's true. This is the problem where like the alt-right gets way off track and stuff. It's not all women submit to all men. We are called, biblically speaking, to submit to one man, our husband, who vows to love and protect us till death. That is who we're submitting to. It's not supposed to be any guy on the street gets to tell me what to do. And anyone that tries to say that, I would say that would be true misogyny. Women already have so much to deal with because you're running your house, you're taking care of your kids, you're doing all this kind of stuff. So let him worry about like the finances and all of that kind of stuff.
I just want to say though, as a woman, because I think that I see a lot of women that get really triggered at the word submit, like submission.
Yeah, that's the whole hang up. That's the whole hang up is that.
I think a good way to clarify it is not submit it's not like submit to men. It's like submit to a good man.
Actually,
It's not
like,
submit
has-
to bad men
Yeah.
or any men or all men. It's submit to good men because you have already decided that you trust their
I feel
leadership.
like I don't even consider myself a full liberal. I'm very in between. I have conservative views and I have liberal views. If it would help my household, if my household would be the most prime if I stayed home and my husband went to work or wife or whatever, then I would do that because I'm all for my optimizing my family. We block is because you guys, not you guys, okay, well, a lot of conservatives believe men and women are already equal in society and they haven't done anything, but there's certain responsibilities of a man where I believe society does not make us equal.
How?
So why make my life harder by not making it just follow what it already is? Changing my life isn't going to change the course of America, right?
No, it could. If all women stood up and all women said, we're going to submit to our good, godly husbands, we're going to prioritize our families over our careers, we would see a radical change in America and culture in the world as a whole. She is wrong. She is wrong.
I know that the show like pretty much forces people to like want to like get into like debates, but honestly it's all semantics half the time, I really feel. So
I disagree. I don't think it's semantics just because there's so many women that want to work, they want to earn money, they want 50% of the say in what happens in the household and stuff, and that's very different from this idea of submission, right? And I think just to clarify it, to make it like super clear, it's just trusting in your man's leadership above all else.
But you're still saying that there's like a two-way conversation happening under the roof. Like that's more important than just being like, well, since I'm the man, like I'm just gonna go ahead and make a decision without saying.
I feel like
anything.
that's what people imagine it to be. But what I want is a really smart wife who I can, partner with to build an empire. I want to consult with her, be like, hey babe, what do you think about these things? And then ultimately the final decision, if her and I differ, I expect her to defer to me.
Yes, that's the thing. You are having a conversation with your husband and he is asking for your perspective, and you can passionately say what that is and what you really, really want and what you really, really think is going to be best for the family. If you're married and all this and you have a healthy relationship, you probably are going to be on the same page. But rarely, once in a while, when there's something that you do disagree on, whatever decision he ends up making, then ideally, I think you as the wife have to say, okay, and you have to bite your tongue, and that's just how it is. One friend that I know was having a baby. Her and her husband vehemently disagreed on should our baby get a couple vaccines or none at all. And this was a huge debate in their relationship. He really, really wanted the newborn baby to get certain vaccines, and she just wanted to do none. So she really defended herself, but she knew ultimately he had to make that decision because they disagreed. But at the end of the day, he said, you know what? You are the mother. So on this, I'm going to go with you. And so it was his final decision, but he ended up choosing what she had asked for. So that's like an example of this playing out in real life.
You said your mom didn't always submit to your dad when you were growing up, and you noticed that? Yeah, I noticed the same thing when I was growing up. Like there were, especially around financial stuff, my mom would make these like super risky financial moves that could have paid off big, and my dad would be like, babe, like pump the brakes, and she'd be like, no. And she would go through on them, and we got burned so hard in 2008.
Ideally, before you're married and you're just in the dating stage, it's so important to be talking about all of these types of topics. How do you envision your life looking as a married man and as a father? Do you envision every weekend the family goes out, they travel, they do this? Do you envision more of a family that stays home a lot? Do you envision your kids going to public school? Do you envision your wife homeschooling? Do you prefer that your wife work and help out financially, or would you prefer her to stay home, even if that means cutting corners and, having to do without sometimes? These types of conversations should be happening in the dating stage, because you're going to see pretty quickly if we fully disagree on like everything, that is just going to be a disaster when it comes to marriage. And then you are going to have that push and pull, and the whole submissive thing is going to be very, very difficult for you, because every single big life choice you're going to disagree on. You are supposed to be marrying someone who you do agree with, so that it is rare that there's going to be that type of push and pull on these sensitive topics. I will say, as a Christian single woman dating, even the guys that say that they're Christian, it irks them them when you bring topics like this up? And they're like,
I don't understand, like, why we're already talking about this. Like, we're just dating. Like, we're not married. We don't need to be talking about, like, what our kids are going to do for school and all that.
I just take that as a sign of like, yeah, you're not ready. Like, you're not even close to being in the same stage of life as me. Here's the other thing too, as a Christian, you want to get married and have kids and do all that kind of stuff. Like, you don't want to be in this dating purgatory. I hope to not be dating forever. So that's why I'm like, no, we need to have these conversations now, because ideally I don't want to be in this situation with you for, longer than like a year or two max. This show has found a way to bring together people on the conservative side and the more liberal side to talk about cultural issues. I think the reason this is possible and why you wouldn't see this on like an outwardly politically leaning show. Like, for example, those same women are probably not going to accept an invitation to go on Candace Owens' show or the Charlie Kirk show or Ben Shapiro or whatever. They're not going to do that. They're going to be scared of that. But it's because this show is branded specifically as this is a dating and relationships podcast. It's not, this is a conservative show where we talk about dating. Then I don't think anyone would show up because of that very smart branding and marketing. They're able to have these types of roundtable discussions with people from all different backgrounds and walks of life. It is so needed right now in our culture to have dialogue like this. Some of the stuff on the show, the conversations are very silly and whatever, pun intended. But this type of conversation is so interesting and thought-provoking. And also, I think it does a great job of showing women an ideal biblical marriage is so much more fulfilling. Notice how when the conservative Christian-leaning women talk about this, they don't seem oppressed to me. They seem very happy. They seem very content. That really shatters that narrative that the left is like, conservative women, we're all so unhappy and miserable and we hate ourselves. When they have these types of discussions on the show, that is not the feeling that I get ever or at all from the conservative women that join the panels. And like that woman that was speaking, she talked about in college, she did buy into that girl boss mentality and how she thoughtfully changed her mind and came to her own conclusion. With life experience, I think a lot more people will end up going more of a conservative way of thinking because you just live life and you realize what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And the thing about being conservative is it just makes sense. It's just common sense. Do you struggle with the idea of being a submissive wife? Does that really irk you and just disturb you? Or are you like, no, like I love this idea. I feel like it's super beneficial and I look forward to doing that, or I do it. I'd love to hear your story and your thoughts in the comments. So do that. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss new videos from me and make sure you subscribe to this channel. Bye.